All right. Good evening from the Badger State, everybody. We are live from the Grain Exchange in downtown Milwaukee. Great to be with all of you tonight. Let's get right back to our audience. Katie Zitzer is joining us this evening. Hi, Katie.
Hi. Thank you for being here, Senator, and thank you for being open to questions.
Thanks, Katie.
So I have a question about how you would specifically ensure the rights and safety of women pursuing reproductive health care services.
Sure. And I think what you've seen recently, including a bill that just passed and was signed into law down in Georgia, which really restricted women's rights to pursue their health care. And this bothers me because I think women should have a right to make their own decisions, right, about their health care. And when you look at the assault we've seen from this White House on that, it is. Well, here, let's take one example. So Planned Parenthood, in their lifetime, 1 of 5 women go there. And most of them are going there, right, for contraception, for birth control. They're going there for mammograms. They're going there for cancer screening. And yet, over and over again, this president has tried to cut that funding for Planned Parenthood. The other way you can look at it is what we talked about earlier, pre-existing conditions. So under the old rules, being a victim of domestic violence was actually a pre-existing condition. Can you believe that? So that meant you wouldn't be able to get on an insurance policy in 8 states because of the fact that you were a victim of domestic violence, and they thought, well, that means that you might have problems and we don't want to cover you. All of that changed. So I would look at this as 2 prongs, really 3. One is what you were just talking about, and that's women's reproductive rights. The second is making sure that you don't get kicked off your insurance for pre-existing conditions. And the third is economic, to make sure that women can pursue their dreams. And we need more women in science, technology, engineering, and math. We've got to make sure that women can afford childcare, right? Paid family leave, those kinds of things. And we need to make sure women have money for their retirement. Chris Coons and I, he's a senator from Delaware, we just put forward some legislation with this thing called Up Savings Account. And it is for if you work at a place that doesn't have a 401k or maybe doesn't have a pension, and these are a lot of people have problems with retirement right now. It allows you to get one of these savings account, and it allows you to take it wherever you work. And at the end of it, you could have about $600,000, even if you're working part-time. And one of the cool things about it is because so many people, 4 out of 10 Americans, don't even have the money to get an emergency bill. If you went there, 4 out of 10, you also could take up to $2,500 a year, just that amount. The rest you got to keep in there for savings if you have an emergency. I bring that up because women who live longer, it is harder and harder for us to afford that retirement as well.
Senator, let me just ask you a question about, just going back to what you talked about referring to reproductive health services. 80% of Americans are in favor of limiting abortion to the first trimester. And you have said that you would not limit that right all the way up to the moment of birth. So what do you say now that you're running nationally to those who have a real problem with that out there in the country?
Well, I believe in Roe v. Wade, and that means, and those rights that you have there, and those are the rights of our country. And of course, there are limits there in the 3rd trimester that are very important about, except for the health of the woman, and there's some limits there. But I think overall, what we want to do is make sure women have the right, to make their own decisions. But we also want to reduce the number of abortions. How do you do that? It's by making contraception available, right? And when this president, and we have actually done that. We have brought down the number of abortions in this country by making birth control more available. And so when this president goes all out against Planned Parenthood, to me, that's a major problem.
But what do you say to those people that you'll see on the campaign trail who will say, how can you be okay with that all the way up until the end?
I mean, even pro-life Democrats.
I think, first of all, I have many people that I know that are pro-life that have supported me. And I think the way I talk to them about this is they have their own view on this, and a lot of them have decided that's my view. I have my own view, my religious view, based in my own faith or based on my own personal decision, but that doesn't mean I have to apply it to everyone else. And so I think that you can have, as a pro-choice Democrat, you can have that support as long as you have that discussion. And that's what I've done. I have people in my state that support me, including Republicans that don't agree with me on every issue. And I respect them for their views, but I think it doesn't mean that you put your views on everyone else.
All right, Senator, I want to turn to foreign policy. Iran today is signaling that it may restart producing nuclear material. At the same time, the U.S. is receiving credible intelligence that Iran is threatening U.S. assets in the region. The Trump administration, the president, has ordered carrier strike group and B-52 bombers into the region to address that if that comes to pass. You're president. You have the same set of circumstances. What do you do?
Well, I think we can all agree that we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. That has got to be one of the tenets of American foreign policy. It's important not only for Israel, it is important for our entire foreign policy. And the way I would approach this is that you have, first of all, you don't want to go to war if possible. I mean, that's got to be number one. And I think how you do that is by enforcing the agreement. I would get back into the Iran nuclear agreement. It wasn't perfect. I think there's more things that we can negotiate as we look to get back into it. But I would get back into that agreement. I support it in the first place. One of the reasons that this is happening is that basically the president made the decision to get us out of that agreement, leaving it to be enforced by our allies, our European allies, and some countries that aren't even our allies. To me, that means that you lose power when you do that. You lose leverage when you do that. So I would not be, first of all, conducting foreign policy by tweet. Secondly, I would stand by our allies and work with our allies, and that Iran agreement is part of that. And third, when you look at his policy and the message that sends to the rest of the world, I wouldn't be cozying up to dictators like Vladimir Putin and with Kim Jong-un, which this president did, basically saying, I love the guy, okay? I don't love that guy, all right? That doesn't mean that you don't... It doesn't mean that you don't talk to him and that you don't have negotiations, but I think when we go into crises and we go into dealing with people that are dictators, and we go into dangerous situations like how we're going to work with Iran in terms of reducing their weapons, but making sure that we do everything to call them out for the bad actors they are, and that's why I have supported sanctions repeatedly against Iran, where I've been intense about making sure that we respond to everything that they do. But
you're talking missile testing or funding
missile testing,
terrorists?
Everything, funding terrorists, all of that. We have to be very strong in how we deal with that. But at the same time, you work with the rest of the world. And this president seems to think that you're tough when you do it alone. I don't think that's the answer for
Just
America.
to clarify, you would send the strike group and the B-52 bombers?
At this moment, I would not be sending B-52 bombers over there. I would be... First of all, I wouldn't have gone out of the agreement to begin with. And I think if that had happened, we wouldn't have been in the situation that we are. So what I would do is bring us back into that agreement.
All right, Senator.
All right, so we are going to do just a quick lightning round of questions before we finish here tonight. 15 seconds or less, if we can. So let's start with the first one.
Are you worried about filibustering?
You are a senator.
Yeah, there you are.
Exactly, right?
Okay, Joe Biden, on the campaign trail, and really before that, calls himself middle-class Joe. So, now it's your turn. What should your nickname be?
Well, I guess I don't really have a nickname. I suppose it would be, if you want to go with that, you know, Heartland Amy, but I like our campaign slogan,
pretty good.
Amy for America, which you can contact us at amyklobuchar.com.
Wow, you slipped that in. Very nicely done, Senator.
All right, so what about this one? Would you commit here tonight that if you get the nomination, you will pick a man as your running mate?
Oh. I think
We've heard a lot of the reverse, as you know.
I understand that, but you have to pick the best person for the job, and that is the person that I would pick for the running mate.
And you're going to be campaigning here in Wisconsin. You've said it 3 times, but just to make sure, in the fall, Packers versus Vikings?
Don't be fooled by the green color here. I will be going with the Vikings. My dad once wrote a book called Will the Vikings Ever Win the Super Bowl? He wrote this a really long time ago, and sadly it is still relevant.
It's still valid.
Yes.
All right, so we want to give you a moment to give your closing comment this evening, and we thank you very much for being here. And
Floor's yours.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to thank everyone from Wisconsin for being here. I am someone, I think you can see this, that believes we need to move together as a country, that believes the heartland is very important to our country, that it's not just flyover land, right? That believes that if we're going to move forward as a country, we need to meet our challenges together. And I've laid out some of those, and I will repeat what I said at the beginning, that if you're going to run for president in this country, you have to have real solutions for real people's problems, and you have to be willing to pay for them and put it out there right there. I am a proven progressive. I have gotten things done. I'm not afraid of working across the aisle with Republicans and independents to do that, as long as we're doing it together and we're doing it for America. So I hope to have your support, and it's a long, long primary season, but I love being out there with people, so you're going to see me again. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Amy Klobuchar, thank you, Senator, for being here, and thank you to our audience here in Milwaukee.
Thank you very much, everybody.
This has been a great show, and
you'll be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and the story is starting up on the balcony right now, so stick around after the break.